Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 12 of our F1 2004 career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here for the Belgian Grand Prix at the iconic Spa Francorchamps. But of course, if you missed out on the video that went live a few days ago from the Hungaroring, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. We've made it through Formula 1 summer break and we are ready to kick things off once again with our still healthy championship margin at the top of the table. But Ralf Schumacher and Michael Schumacher are really beginning to close in towards the end of the year there. We've got a 29-point buffer over Ralf, a 37-point buffer over Michael, but it has been the Ferraris that have taken the last couple of victories. We haven't won a race since Montreal, so we're on a little bit of a drought at this stage of the campaign, but 5 races left to go this season. Nothing is guaranteed, I'm sure, until we make it to that season finale out in Brazil. Of course, yeah, if you're new around here, please do make sure and leave a like, get yourself subscribed. If you want early access to all these videos as well, make sure you click the join button below as well for just £1 a month. And last but not least, I'm trying to push my live streaming over on Twitch a lot more as well. So there'll be a link down in the description. I normally go live sort of 3, 4, maybe even 5 times a week. And we want to try and hit 10k over there before the end of the year as well. But yeah, without further ado though, let's return here to Circuit de Spa Francorchamps. Well, here we are then, back at Formula 1's best track, in my opinion. It is always a shame that we can't get the classic layout here. Not only because I think it would probably suit this car a little bit more than the modern layout at Spa, but yeah, obviously we found last weekend the car was very, very good at the Hungaroring. I've got no idea what to expect from the speed of it today, but already I've seen my teammate, I've seen Anthony Davidson, I've seen one of the McLarens, all trying to vie for pole position. We're trying to run quite a low downforce setup here, but I'm hoping we're going to have a little bit of bite through the middle sectors. You can already see way down on those front runners there, as I even saw Juan Pablo Montoya, one of the Ferraris, trying to fight for pole position as well. Your big 5 teams, all super, super close, and all kind of have tracks where they're a bit stronger or a bit weaker, but I would on paper expect BAR to be the team to beat this weekend. Of course, La Castellet, another very, very low downforce circuit. So I would expect them to fly along, as it's all about just trying to not make mistakes as well in your qualifying runs. They're all very, very wide through the exit of Pouon, yeah, Pouon even. But still just about kept a foot in, and well, it's early 2000s Formula 1, so track limits were more of a recommendation than anything else, as BAR, Anthony Davidson flying along. By the time we get down in Sector 3, that car just seems to have the grip everywhere around this circuit. We're up to P3 provisionally, and we are a second behind Davidson as we make our way in towards the final couple of corners of this lap then. Let's just try and keep it clean and tidy, keep it inside track limits there, and try and make sure that we spot the braking. Ready for that final chicane there just after the 100-metre board. Attack the first curb, attack the second one. Anthony Davidson has put on a clinic around this venue. He will line up on pole. We will take 5th. I mean, the advantage that BAR had over an entire lap is disgusting. Nobody else got within a second of Anthony Davidson's pole time in the end. Ferrari, they just pipped me on the run towards the flag, but we will line up 5th then, just ahead of JPM and Giancarlo Fisichella. McLaren, especially Coulthard, really seemed to struggle right towards the end of their lap. How far off was the Jordans? 5 seconds away from pole position. That's slightly alarming.
We're in Belgium once again for today's round of the Formula 1 World Championship. It's a race the great Ayrton Senna won 6 times, and in 2019, Charles Leclerc became the first driver to take their maiden win here since Michael Schumacher in 1992. Spa Francorchamps then, a historic 19-corner circuit with a lap distance of 4.35 miles. There's over 100 metres of elevation change here, and with long stretches of the lap spent flat out, a good top speed will be vital for success. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. Ant, great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, it's looking a bit cold out there, if I'm honest. These tyres have quite a narrow operating window in terms of the temperatures they need to extract the best grip. So with a cold track surface, it's going to be harder to keep those temperatures up, which will lead to lower grip and maybe more mistakes.
Well, no grip penalties then in front of me this time round, so we will stay in P5. Ready for the start of this one. It is looking very, very overcast, though, around this circuit, so always a little bit nervous that we could see some rain. It is Spa, after all. We've had many a wet race around this venue before inside this series. Ready on the grid, though, for the Belgian Grand Prix. It is 5 red lights. There's the lights out. Oh, and away we go there, trying to avoid the wheel spin. It's also Baumgartner. Lightning getaway around the outside of his teammate in towards turn 1. As we will be going 3 wide there. We've got to hug the apex to make sure we don't have contact with our teammate Baumgartner. We were, with Fisichella even, I should say. We were told categorically by the team over the summer break that cannot happen again there, as Fizzy and Montoya gone wheel to wheel up through a Rouge Radion. Can we carry the speed up over the top of the circuit? It's already up to almost 210 miles an hour. Do we make it 3 wide? We think about it, but we just have not got the straight line speed. They're diving down the inside at the very next corner, though, and up then back into P5. So not the worst start I've ever had inside this game. I mean, look at that, the Hungarian trying to run away. Anthony Davidson maybe having to put up a bit of a defensive drive ahead of those Ferraris early on, but yeah, I mean, it's so important that you get into a good rhythm nice and early around this circuit. We've got to make sure that we're not going to burn through too much fuel either. As well, both Ferraris actually having a little bit of a correction as we make our way down the hill. Will that leave one of them vulnerable as we will steamroll to the inside? They're far too deep into the corner. Luckily, we'll keep it wheel to wheel on the exit. Whoa, what's going on? Why are they braking so much? Clearly had the grip around the outside as we're now going to get dived by Giancarlo in towards the end of Sector 2. Again, we cannot risk the contact with him there. We almost put ourselves out in the wall to try to avoid our teammates. A rather chaotic lap 1 then in this Grand Prix so far, and it's not over yet. To the outside, up through Blanchimont with Giancarlo Fisichella. Again, he tries to give me a big old squeeze. This is ridiculous. On the opening lap of the Grand Prix, I'm almost losing my voice. But we do hang on, and in all of that, we've ended up staying exactly where we were. Now we might just get a chance to breathe. I think we're going to get that chance to breathe for very long here, as already Juan Pablo Montoya trying to apply some pressure as we make our way up the Kemmel Straight once again. Can we break the toe from the Williams? The slipstream in these cars is really, really powerful, as here goes Juan Pablo to the outside again. And again, just carrying a little bit less speed into the corner. We've got a bit more braking performance. Well, I think if you can hang inside the slipstream of the car in front of you, it'll only give you, 5 miles an hour extra down the straight. But that's a huge amount around the circuit like this. Obviously, whether that's up, obviously, the Kemmel Straight or round the back of the circuit as well. As you can just see there, desperately trying to just stay in the range of one of the Schumachers. I don't even know which one it is. I haven't requested that information over the radio just yet, but you need to be within about 0.8 of a second of the car in front, which we are not. Juan Pablo Montoya, though, is once again, but we do fly through that middle sector, as well, at least we haven't gone wheel to wheel with JPM that time round up through the top of the circuit. You can just see whichever Ferrari that is really, really struggling early on. The other one has bolted. I don't know whether Ralf Schumacher then has just picked up a little bit of front wing damage early on in this race, or he's just really struggling to fire up his Bridgestone tyres. Ferrari maybe have made some updates to that car that is not helping him out all too much, but hopefully, I mean, look at that. He's just not able to get that car anywhere where you would expect him to, as he puts me in the grass up the hill. Not too sure what to make of that one. All the time you have to lever the space, and, well, I'd expect that kind of driving from his teammate, but not from Ralf Schumacher there, up in towards the final couple of corners. Can we try to stick with him, though, and get a run back down the Kemmel Straight, though? I mean, I'm lucky we didn't lose a wheel there against the Ferrari, because that could have been an absolute disaster for us.
By 5.4 seconds.
Need to make sure we get a good run out of turn 1. There are cars queuing up behind as well, so if I don't make the move on Ralf, someone else will probably try to. So we've got a nice run down the hill, trying not to lean on that traction control all too much. As up over the top of Rouge Radion. Are we gaining anything on the Ferrari? We are gaining a little bit. But again, it's not going to be enough By the time we make our way down the back straight, you can see that Ferrari sparking.
Let's get into mix 3 ASAP.
Yep, I'm trying to use the revs, but not trying to use them too much too early on. I don't want to make sure that we're running out of fuel towards the end. So look at that. A Ferrari again, not able to get the power down the hill. We will get to the inside there. Ralf Schumacher will give us room that time. And we will slide on by as we get towards half distance then. Ralf Schumacher is just dropping down the order right now. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that, you know, a circuit like Spa, you would expect the Ferraris to absolutely dominate. But with the rise of Japanese horsepower in the sport, I mean, BAR, they're pulling out pretty much a second a lap over everybody. That qualifying pace seems to have stood up as we got into the Grand Prix as well. But we're not too worried about them in the championship. I mean, Davidson and Baumgartner, we need a miracle to try and get back in the fight towards the end of the year. We are far more interested in seeing if we can beat out those Ferraris again. So he came into the summer break. Ferrari had the momentum behind them after that 1-2 finish out at the Hungaroring. But this weekend, yeah, Schumacher of Ralph is really struggling. And Schumacher of Michael is, well, he's hanging on. He's treading water at this stage of the Grand Prix. Montoya behind me as well still looks very, very racy. But I'm kind of just waiting for when Michael's going to pit. And then we're going to try and see if we can work an overcut at the end then of lap 8. Whoa, getting a little bit ragged there. I mean, the dirty air as well. You really do notice it. Yeah, I think people kind of have like this optimistic view, you know, nostalgia as to what the early 2000s were like. But it was really difficult to try and hang, you know, right underneath the car in front of you. Was Baumgartner, another new fast lap of the day. So there we go. If by magic Michael Schumacher immediately decides he's diving into the pit lane, so those Bridgestones have given him everything they possibly can. Davidson has closed back up on Zolt, so could we see some strategy between those two? I mean, imagine if they came to blows and we were in a position to win this thing. Well, looks like down at BAR then, Anthony Davidson has been given first choice of pit stop strategy. Maybe that's a controversial call, especially if he's not Baumgartner, if his teammate gets the jump on him. But into the pit lane we will go then. We've been trying to fly along and get the jump on Michael Schumacher here. Get the overcut on him and know that we're going to have some slightly fresher tyres to the end. Past goes Juan Pablo Montoya. But come on, team, we need a good pit stop here.
Go, go.
Not fantastic, but not the worst run I've ever had inside this game either then. As Coulthard's going to fly by, so is Giancarlo Fisichella. There is a Schumacher as well. Just here and going past us. Oh, got to take the limiter off there, so Fisichella will make it by, but will we be under pressure from Michael Schumacher as well then? Side by side perhaps, as we make our way in towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Oh, it'll just stick the nose in right at the last moment there, having to make me second guess it. And obviously last weekend we went spinning off of someone's front wing, so I don't want to have the same thing happening here today. Here comes Michael Schumacher around the outside as we make our way up the Kemmel straight. Late on the brakes there from the German. There's all a little bit of wheel banging. We've got to be careful that we don't make any contact with him, as Michael again obviously just got those tyres up to temperature and will make it through. Runs immediately deep though in towards the next corner, so this might not be over and done with just yet as we plunge our way down the hill, trying to maximise the circuit width there as surely we can have a look down the inside in towards Pouon. We'll back out of that one. But yeah, Michael Schumacher desperately trying to hang on. He knows he needs to try and outscore us today as we think about a look down the inside. Oh, as he actually runs wide again and completely comes across me. That's the kind of defending we expect to see from the German inside this series. I haven't been able to make the move on him yet so far. Of course, right when I thought I was going to be able to, he jumped into the pit lane. But obviously everybody else then at the end of this lap will be pitting. So will Anthony Davidson have gotten the jump over his teammates of Baumgartner as well up towards the front? Meanwhile, yeah, the elbows are getting out between myself and Michael here as down in towards the final chicane we will go once again. Of course, this was the scene where he claimed his 7th World Championship back in 2004. Definitely not the case this year. That's Montoya in, so is Davidson going to be ahead of Zolt Baumgartner? It does often take a little bit to fire up the tyres. I think the Hungarian's still leading the race. Of course, I don't believe he's won a race so far. Anthony Davidson has won 2 or 3. So yeah, for Zolt, this would be huge. Well, I don't know if Ferrari have just given Michael an extra engine mode to try and use, but he's actually able to start pulling away from me Once again in this race, of course, through the middle sector, we still absolutely fly. But yeah, the German, he knows every point matters throughout these final 5 Grand Prix. I'm sure, first and foremost, he just wants to get to Brazil with a mathematical shot at the championship. I mean, with the way BAR have dominated today, you would expect them again to be the strongest team out next weekend at Monza. But of course, yeah, the Schumachers, they will want to try and claim glory for Ferrari. 4 laps to go then in this race, and as the fuel burns off, everybody is getting a little bit quicker towards the end of the afternoon. I'm actually getting slightly concerned about Juan Pablo Montoya behind. He's been quietly taking a few tenths a lap out of Michael and I think if the gloves come off again, which I expect they will between now and the end of the Grand Prix, we could end up with a rather feisty Colombian involved in this battle as well. I'm just trying to save a little bit of fuel as best as I can right now. As you can see, Schumacher and I now down nestled in the low 149s. In fact, yeah, the BARs are barely pulling away from us. Oh, that's bad. Just completely missed the gear shift up through 3rd and 4th. And immediately Michael Schumacher will scamper away once again. Well, this has got to be one of the biggest defensive drives I've ever seen Michael Schumacher have to make inside this series as well. That was, I think, a day late and $1 short there. Just about didn't get it slowed down. And I had to be very, very careful then that Michael didn't immediately chop across my nose. That'll hand him, again, just brings that gap back up to a second. We know we are so quick through the middle sector. We know we can be quick through that final sector as well. But look at that, Juan Pablo even, less than 3 seconds away now. If he gets inside our slipstream range, it is going to be very, very tough. I mean, Michael, he just seems to be so slow through like these 3rd and 4th gear corners towards the end of Sector 2 there. We seem to be able to gain so much on him. I mean, look at that purple. Oh, that time round. We're playing it very risky with that outside wall. I will say that. We're probably taking a bit too much risk. Because if you dare nudge that, that is going to be a wheel flying off the wagon pretty much immediately there. As up in towards the final couple of corners again. Oh, thought about it on Michael Schumacher there. Is what I love with these older style cars as well, is you can move around a bit in the braking zone. You can play those mind games with the driver in front of you. So there we go, 48.5. Where's that pace been all day? Michael, he is definitely starting to park the bus now then. It's all, look at that. Thought about having a look down the inside in towards Puon, but you just know full well the AI will not give you an inch through there. Still just having to sit waiting in the wings, but it's through these corners as well. I mean, look at that. He just cannot get the car down to that apex. And then immediately has to try and park it through the second phase of the corner. Whoa! Oh, he locks up. No! I mean, the AI, they're a little bit questionable inside this series. Like, if you get a nose down the inside, they will just not give you any room through the exit of the corner. I've tried to save just a little bit of fuel ready for the last lap of this Grand Prix, but I'm not quite sure. You know, with that little mistake there, with that little lock-up to avoid Michael, maybe he's just given himself the breathing room that he needs here. One more lap to go of the Belgian Grand Prix, and I tell you what, Ferrari, they went into the summer break with momentum. BAR have come out with it and come out the gate swinging. A second a lap faster on average throughout the entirety of this race. Is now Montoya closer to me than I am to Michael Schumacher. We're going to have to drain a little bit of the fuel, as we make our way up the hill. Old habits die hard. You've got to give me a little bit of patience with that one then. But winding our way up through towards the top of the circuit then, you can see Schumacher still pulling away further and further still. But it'll be that middle sector where we really fly along. And, well, as the fuel has burned off, it feels like our advantage over him has gotten stronger and stronger through these corners. Maybe those Bridgestones just beginning to struggle towards the end of the afternoon. But as we plunge down the hill, see Montoya as well. He's only a second back. So Montoya ready to pounce if something happens between myself and Michael here. We are throwing the car between the curbs. We are putting it all on the line on this final lap. It's only a 6-point swing, but we've seen championships be decided by much less than that in Formula 1 before. Down the hill in towards the end of Sector 2, and you can see again Michael Schumacher parking the bus just in front of me here. Is there going to be any opportunity as we make our way up in towards the final few corners of this Grand Prix? We've got to try and get a good run on him. Blip out of the throttle nice and early so we can carry the speed on the exit. Zolt Baumgartner is a Formula 1 Grand Prix winner The first ever Hungarian to do so. In towards the final few corners, though. We nudge the grass again. It's going to have to be a late send on Michael. Will we be able to get it down the inside? Will we get it stopped in towards the corner? We just park it on the apex there. Michael tries to get the run around the outside. Wheel to wheel on the run to the line. We've done it.
Top job, my friend, top job. I was a bit worried about this one at the start of the weekend, but you've pulled through. Thank you.
Many doubted whether they could pull off the win here at Spa Francorchamps, but they've done so in spectacular style. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
The Racing Point team will be very happy with today's performance and the final result. Another display of excellent driving and excellent teamwork, and a well-deserved first-place finish.
Well, there we are then. BAR at the front, a 1-2 finish. They couldn't have asked for a lot more this weekend. Of course, the second time I believe they've done that here after myself and Johnny Herbert had a crazy race back in 2000. But by 27 thousandths of a second, we pit Michael Schumacher on the run to the line. It feels like on quite a few occasions so far, he's just had the better of me here or there, but just shouldering him out of the final corner. Maybe it was a controversial overtake. You guys will have to let me know down in the comments below. But what a finish to the race there. Juan Pablo Montoya comes through for 5th ahead of Ralf Schumacher. Kimi Raikkonen, Fernando Alonso, Giancarlo Fisichella a bit disappointed with his race pace. Just ahead of David Coulthard. It was again your big 5 teams that picked up all of the points. I believe it was just, Jarno Trulli that failed to see the checkered flag when all is said and done. What does that do to our championship, though? It means we extend the gap over Ralf Schumacher now to 36 points then with 4 races to go. So we could theoretically now just finish second behind him every single race to the end of the campaign. Davidson and Baumgartner now tied on 121 points apiece, just 2 ahead of Fernando Alonso. You can see Juan Pablo Montoya just now ahead of Kimi Raikkonen as Coulthard drops back down to P9. And yeah, I mean, Fisichella, he got a couple of points on the board, but still not that helpful. Ferrari, 66 clear of BAR. Could they mount a late championship challenge for the Constructors' crown? Toyota, we get relegated back down to 3rd behind our Japanese rival, but still ahead of Williams and McLaren. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns ready for the Italian Grand Prix.